There was one conversation that I had that was really blunt to the point, and it kind of made me realize what I really needed to do and that I needed to change. I had a conversation with David Quinn, my head coach in New York, after my second season, and it was tough. Like I said, it was hard to, kind of wrap your head around that, but it was so good for me. Like he was so honest with me, and honestly, I can't thank him enough for that. Like it was a really good conversation, and I think from then I really started to key in on what I needed to do to be able to stay in the league and then to be able to be successful in the league after that.
Just watch me now.
Welcome to Up My Hockey with Jason Podolin, where we deconstruct the NHL journey, discuss what it takes to make it, and have a few laughs along the way. I'm your host, Jason Podolin, a 31st overall draft pick who played 41 NHL games, but thought he was destined for 1,000. Learn from my story and those of my guests. This is a hockey podcast about reaching your potential. Hello there, and welcome back to the Up My Hockey podcast with Jason Podolin. I am your host, Jason Podolin, and today you are in for a treat because we are speaking with Brett Howden. This is a fantastic interview. As far as lessons go, as far as little gold nuggets go, this conversation is absolutely packed full of them. Brett, as you will soon hear, is a really gracious, a really humble, and introspective person. And it was awesome to be able to speak with him at the ripe age of however old he is now, 25, I believe. Been in the NHL for 5 years, has been traded, was on a rebuilding team to start, ended up with the Las Vegas Golden Knights, where he just won a Stanley Cup. So he has experienced different levels of the NHL, and the conversation was absolutely fantastic. But a bit about Brett here, like as far as his bio is concerned, just for those of you who are unfamiliar, Brett is 25 years old, born in 1998, Canadian-born player, was drafted in the 2013 WHL draft to the Moose Jaw Warriors, 5th overall. So he was always a player, and I want to keep going back to this because I think his story, what is the most profound about his story, we will get to. But I just want to hear the lineage here, the hockey resume that he has. So 5th overall selection in the 2013 WHL draft. He gets drafted to the NHL in 2016 as a first rounder, 27th overall. So deemed the 27th best 18-year-old in the world after being deemed the 5th best player in Western Canada. Goes on to be selected to Canada's World Junior team for the 2018 edition, where they won gold. Brett had 7 points in 7 games there, so was a key contributor to that team. And then in what year is it? He ends up getting traded from Tampa, who drafted him. February 26th in 2018, he was drafted a little bit after the World Junior Tournament to the New York Rangers. And from there, he gets his audition that next season, the 2018-2019 season, where he gets to play in the NHL. He makes the New York Rangers. Plays there for 3 years and then gets traded in another deal to the Las Vegas Golden Knights in 21-22. And then obviously the rest is history with the season that they had there last year, and he wins the Stanley Cup. So now, why is this all relevant? Well, of course it's relevant because it's his story, and it's an amazing story at that. But why I think it's super relevant is because the whole tone of this interview, oftentimes I'll take excerpts from these podcasts, and then I'll make what's called the lessons from the pro that I'll share with my players, or I'll share on social media. Not often do I start an episode with a lesson, but I think it was so profound in this scenario, and it should be so profound to the hockey players that are listening, about like the fine line it is between, being an NHL player or making your goals come true and having them not happen. And why it's relevant is because how I got in touch with Brett was through Dave Oliver. Dave Oliver happened to be the assistant coach at the time when Brett was trying to make the New York Islanders, the New York Rangers. The Rangers were in a rebuilding period, 2018, 2019. They were They knew that they were going to be young. They knew that they were going to be, pushing to not, they probably wouldn't be in the playoffs. They were just going to be trying to, get as many wins as they could. And Brett showed up after this trade. And so he was in competition with all the other prospects and everyone else that was in the organization there to make this team. And he did. And throughout the interview, we hear Brett talk about the opportunity that he had, how grateful he was for the opportunity with New York, how he even thought that maybe he wasn't ready, how he made mistake after mistake, but they kept giving him a chance. And just like the gratitude from Brett for that first season, and for the Rangers giving him the opportunity, and for Dave Oliver taking him under his wing, and spending so much time with them, and all the rest of the story that you're about to hear. This is a guy, just so you know, right? We go back now to his resume. 5th overall in the WHL Bantam draft. One of the best Bantam players in Western Canada. One of the best players in the world. Picked 27th overall. Wins a World Junior Championship. Like, he is the creme de la creme. And when I talked to Dave Oliver about him and Brett and what his story was and about that rookie year, and Dave Oliver said to me, he's like, you know what, it was so close with Brett. Like, there was so many other good players, obviously, that were available, and he essentially just made the team, and he made it because of the type of person that he was. Not exactly Dave Oliver's words, but very, very close, that this guy was a good human. He was somebody that you wanted to root for. He was someone that you wanted to get behind. And that distinction separated Brett from everybody else that was trying to earn that same spot. And that same distinction provided him with opportunities that maybe somebody else might not have got. And that history extends. That reputation is followed by him, right? He's recognized as being a good kid. He's recognized as being a good person, a good teammate, a good person in the locker room. And taking nothing away from Brett Howden as an NHLer, right? Nothing at all. But if you look at his stats in the NHL, it's not like he's lighting it up offensively. Or it's not like he's, running the power play. He has found a way to be very relevant in a very, very difficult league. And this is from on the heels of him being a prolific player at the junior level. He has had to find a way into that league and stay in the league. And one of the reasons how he was able to do it was because of the type of person that he is. So this cannot be discounted. I mean, this is the drum that I beat here on this channel, that from a mindset side, from a character side, from a teammate side, like, all these personal intangibles are so relevant. Not only are they relevant in how you are like the reflection you show to people, those that are involved in your career and in your journey, but there are also intangibles involved in how you approach learning, how you approach your development, how you approach adversity. These are all key contributors to allowing you to make your goals and dreams come true. And Brett, this interview, it really kind of blows my mind. It's almost like a poster child interview for what I believe in. As far as the development of growth mindset, the personal development involved in the hockey player, the idea of being vulnerable enough to ask questions, being eager enough to want to continue to learn, and building a support team around you, that believes in what it is you want to accomplish. So it couldn't be happier with this interview. I really appreciate Brett coming on, and even for Brett to come on, right? For Dave to call Brett Howden about a guy that he's never heard before in Jason Podolin, and probably a podcast I assume that he's never heard before in Up My Hockey, and for a Stanley Cup champion who's 6 years or 5 years in the league to say, yeah, I'll do that, no worries, no problem, and to spend an hour with us, like, that also tells you what type of player this guy is and what type of human this guy is. Not to mention how easy he was to get a hold of and how easy it was to actually schedule something. Like, it's not always that easy. And I think how the whole process went with Brett, the feedback that Dave Oliver had about Brett and anyone else that I've heard talk about him, it's very indicative of who he is. And it's no wonder why he's in the NHL, starting his 6th season and being a very productive member, and now a Stanley Cup champion. So I think there's a huge lesson there that we're so worried about the points and we're so worried about the goals and the assists. And yet when it came down to the decision the Rangers made, when the funnel was super tight and there's a lot of options there, they went with the person behind the player, not necessarily the player. And then the other lesson there, I guess, is while we're at it is, here's a guy that was a point producer his entire junior career, and recognized as such with these high draft picks and everything else. And he's turned into, at this point, a third line kind of player. Mind you, he was playing with Mark Stone in the playoffs, so that could definitely change. And there is an evolution, obviously, of all players as they go through. But we talk about that reinvention of his game in this interview, like that he had to become good at things that he wasn't good at in order to stay in the game. He had to take pride in different areas of the game. So always approach the game with the learning mentality, with what can I learn next? What can I get better at next? And especially if you have a progressive type of attitude about your game, every time you level up, you're probably going to start in a role or in a designation that maybe wasn't where you just left. So you have to continue to build your game. Get good at the small areas of the game. Get good at some of these intangibles as far as your on-ice skills are concerned. So it can prepare you to be successful when you're fighting for that last spot potentially at a higher level up. And also continue, of course, to work on the mindset, to work on the character intangibles, to work on the leadership skills and your qualities as a teammate to get people behind you that want to have you succeed. And yeah, there's a lot of lessons here in this interview. I really hope you enjoy it. Brett, doubt you're listening, but anyone maybe around him that will and wants to hear, I really do appreciate you and appreciate the time you spent, and I hope everyone else enjoys it as much as I did. So without further ado, let's bring you Stanley Cup champion and overall fantastic human being and a great example for the hockey community and young players anywhere, everywhere, Mr. Brett Howden. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Brett Howden, one of the freshestly crowned Stanley Cup champions here of the 2023. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. This is going to be fun. As I said just before we kind of pressed live here, just for everyone listening, we have a mutual connection in Dave Oliver. Dave was the assistant coach for Brett with the Rangers when he was there, and said that you're a fantastic young man and be a great interview. And he asked, and you decided to come on. So I really thank you for that. Maybe we can start just with Dave and your relationship there.
Yeah. Me and Ollie got along great. He was a huge help to me in my first few years in the league, and we had a young team in New York. We were rebuilding, and for us to have a guy like Ollie, I think it really was beneficial for us. He was a real hands-on kind of guy, a player's coach, and the stuff that we would do after practice, he was so good at it. Like, he was so skilled, and it was fun to work with him. And I was talking to him a little bit during the playoffs this past season, and just fun to kind of catch up with him. But he's a big reason why I kind of started to excel a little bit. He was a big help in my career.
That's awesome. I mean, that's maybe a great point to start. I talk with players all the time, whether I'm working with them privately or not, but those connections and those relationships with the people that actually can make a difference in your own career, like, are so valuable. And not that we want to go out and necessarily, I don't know what the right word is, like, be contriving about it, or force it. You want it to be authentic, but it is so valuable once you find somebody that, either gets you or you get them, or there's some type of a bond there, because, one, you get better, and two, there might be some more opportunity at the end of the day for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the cool thing with Ollie is that me and him had a really good relationship, in the sense that I could talk to him about really anything, even just stuff away from hockey. I mean, I was 21 years old, living in New York City for my first time playing pro hockey. And, this season, it's a long season. I mean, it was a big learning experience for me. My first couple of years were, but that first year in the league, I started off with such a high coming into the league, and so excited. And every night's just, you're so happy to be there. And then, about halfway through the season, I kind of had a dip, and it was hard. There was some hard days, but it was good because I could talk to Ollie, away from the rink, and just he's got a lot of experience himself. So just to be able to kind of rely on somebody, just to talk to somebody. Yeah, it's pretty cool the relationship we had.
Yeah, that's great. You get into that dip because one of the things about you see it at the junior level, of course, major junior, you're playing with Moose Jaw. I was an ex-Spokane Chief, by the way, 4 years in the league myself, and so I know about that circuit, and I know about the grind of 72 games in that league, and especially when you're on the draft radar, and you're trying to play well and play consistently, and then you take that up and turn it up an entire new level when you're now in the NHL, and every game is essentially you're fighting to keep that spot in the lineup and establish yourself as an NHLer. And now things maybe, like you said, are going south a little bit. How was that? And what was it? Do you think that was that moment in time where you weren't really feeling it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was tough, but yeah, when I first came in the league, like I said, I was just so happy to be there. So everything was going right and everything was feeling good. But then I kind of hit a spot in the season where, like I had said before, it all kind of caught up to me, and I wasn't playing as much. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't for the Rangers, they were in a rebuild year, and if I wasn't in that position, they gave me every opportunity possible. And if I wasn't there, I don't know, I probably would have been in the minors somewhere else. So I was just very thankful for all the opportunity that I was been given. But throughout the season, then it started to kind of become reality, and yeah, it was tough. I think it was like 34 or 35 games without a goal, and that obviously, it was the longest in my career. I was just coming from junior, where we had a really good team my last year. So for me to go through that, it was tough. It was really hard, and there's actually a video of when I do score. It's against Edmonton. There's you can just see the huge sigh of relief when I scored, because you try not to think about it, but it was in my head the whole time. And I remember Shattenkirk came up to me, and he was just like, "You want me to keep the puck? You want me to save that puck?" Just because it was so long. So, but it's crazy as much, I mean, you try not thinking about it the whole time, and it's hard not to, because you grip your stick a little bit tighter, things don't go your way as much. And but that was my first year when I didn't have much experience. Now I feel like these last couple of years I've really taken a step, and the biggest thing I wanted to find in my game was consistency. And I think that's something that I have finally kind of figured out. And not being able to take a night off, it's a hard league every night, no matter who you're playing. And I think these last few years, like I said, I've really started to learn that, and I think that's probably the biggest turn in my game that I've found since I went pro.
What is the secret to that consistency? And I'll ask you that on the heels of saying, like, when I'm working with some of these younger players, junior age players, or guys coming up, is like trying to establish what their identity is. That's one of the things that I think a lot of guys kind of miss in the process. And once you get to the level that you're at, there is sort of a box that you're filling at a certain time. And of course, your game can evolve and grow, and you can become other things, but you need to be consistent in whatever it is that you provide value for that team and help them win night in and night out. So what, if I'm right in that statement for you right now, like what is it that you're being consistent about, that you're providing the Vegas Golden Knights a chance to win?
Yeah, I think that's something that took me some time to figure out. When I first came into the league, I came from junior, where I was kind of known to obviously play a two-way game, but I was, more so scoring and on the power play and all that kind of stuff. And then when I went to New York, I was given all that opportunity. But I then, it took me some time, but I then realized that I needed to change my game to be able, if I wanted to stay in the league. I think that's something that guys either figure out or they don't. And for me, I kind of started to figure it out. And I mean, it was hard. I mean, it's hard going from, you're playing one way your whole life, and then you kind of got to change it a little bit. I mean, it's not drastic changes, but it's just kind of realizing what you can do to help a team win. And I think for me, just I've kind of learned, being a hard player, being a two-way player. When I get in the offensive zone, I feel like I can still, make my plays and be creative like that. But I think it's just knowing your identity, like you said. And it took me a few years to kind of find that, but I find that I kind of have an identity to my game now, and I kind of know what I need to bring to the table. And yeah, I think I mean, it also helps, players that are around you. I mean, everybody around you makes you better. So I think that helps too. But ultimately, I think that was the biggest thing for me.
Is there a preparation to that? Like, are there things that you're trying to focus on, maybe, micro details, or maybe there's two or three things a night that, Brett has to do this. I mean, like, I want to do this well, I want to do this well. If I can check those boxes, I'm going to be happy with my game. Is that kind of how you break it down to identify what it is you want to do?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I try not to overthink it too much. I find that I've kind of gotten in a rhythm now where I know how I want to play. I think for a while there, when I was kind of in that, trying to find that, I kind of had to tell myself how to play every night. I was kind of thinking about, being hard on pucks, being hard in battles, doing the right things in the D zone, and then the rest will take care of itself. When you get to the offensive zone, you have the ability to be creative and make plays. So I think now, like I said, I don't think about it as much. I just feel like my game is it's kind of subconscious. What I know what is expected of me. But for a year and a bit there, it was me kind of transitioning, trying to find that, and I really had to think about it a lot.
All right. Yeah, man. Like, I can totally hear what you're saying. I mean, 20 years after you tried to do it, or maybe even 30, right? Like, that whole idea of, you're a goal scorer somewhere, or even a goal scorer in the minors in my scenario, and then you come up and you're talking about opportunity first, and that's obviously the first thing you have to have, is like a real opportunity to be able to do something. The second one I found is, like, what is the expectation or the communication around what it is you are supposed to do, right? Like, you can come up there as a young guy and be like, well, I'm supposed to score goals because I've always scored goals. But really, they're not even really wanting you to. They want you to get the puck out in your own end, and they want you to bang a couple of guys in the forecheck and get the hell off the ice for your first little while, right? But, like, if you're not really told that, and if you're not really willing to adopt it, one or the other, like, you can get in trouble pretty quick, right? Was there any communication with you on that, either coming up or once you came to Vegas, about what it is they wanted from you?
Yeah, there was actually one conversation that I had that was really blunt, and it was to the point, and it kind of made me realize what I really needed to do and that I needed to change. I had a conversation with David Quinn, my head coach in New York, after my second season, and it was tough. Like I said, it was hard to kind of wrap your head around that. But it was so good for me. Like, he was so honest with me, and honestly, I can't thank him enough for that. Like, it was a really good conversation, and I think from then I really started to key in on what I needed to do to be able to stay in the league, and then to be able to be successful in the league after that. And then once I came to Vegas, I feel like I had gotten some good opportunity here, and I just kind of ran with it, and I've been trying to stick to that game plan. And it's been great. Like I said, you said it too, opportunity is everything. And when I went to New York, they gave me every opportunity possible. I was really young, and I think it took me a bit to learn. But when I came to Vegas, as I was starting to get older and mature a little bit and have some more experience, I think that's when I was really able to use that and to play my game. And it's probably been the best thing that's ever happened to me, was coming here and getting the opportunity here.
That's awesome. Do you mind letting us in the room for that Dave Quinn? He was actually a guest on my on this show. He was an
Oh yeah.
amazing interview. Like I
Yeah.
had never met him before, and he spent like almost an hour and a half with me, and wow, like he was super impressive. I really enjoyed,
Yeah.
and I kind of was like, it kind of brings the player out in you too. I was like, geez, I'd like to play for this guy.
Yeah.
Like he kind
Yeah.
of fired me up a little bit. But yeah, do you
Yeah.
mind letting us in the room there on that conversation? Like what did he communicate with you? What did he tell you there?
Yeah, you know what? It was pretty much everything that we were talking about. Just that, you know, I needed to, you know, change my game a little bit to be able to stay in the league and to be successful eventually once I kind of figured that out. And it was a long conversation, but it was basically the gist around that. Just trying to, be harder and be harder to play against and be a guy that I can, that he can rely on and things like that. And the cool thing is when he was telling me, it wasn't just him telling me just so I could do that for him. It was so that I could play in the league, for a long time. He was looking out for me. So I think that was the coolest thing. He cares so much. He cares so much. You can see it when he coaches. I played for him for 3 years, and I played with Eichel, and he had him at BU, and he says the same thing. Like he just cares so much about all his players. He cares about his team, and yeah, for him to pull me aside, I know it probably wasn't easy for him, wasn't easy for me, but after that long conversation, I feel like that's yeah, I feel like I owe a lot of credit to him for having that conversation with me.
Well, I'm sure he appreciates the shout out. Maybe that's a good opportunity even to expand on that. Like when that whole staff got let go there, when they came in, it just seemed to me, I mean, I'm outside looking in, but that team looked like it was overachieving that year. It looked like I mean, everything was coming together. It looked like, I don't know. I thought that like what Quinn and his staff was there to do with you guys obviously involved in it was like something that was special. And all of a sudden, he's out the door and kind of, depending on who you listen to, like almost with a little bit of a bad rap about being able to coach great players. And anyways, we know what he did with Erik Karlsson last year. They brought him back to a Norris Trophy. Obviously, Erik had something to do with that as well. But it seems to me like he was doing some good things there, and you seem to be saying the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And the biggest thing is I'm pretty sure New York put out the year before I was there. They put out a big statement that said they're in a rebuild year, or rebuild year is coming up. And we were really young. We made a lot of trades my first year, and we got younger. And I mean, it took a few years, but I feel like we were starting to get a bit older, a bit more experience. But there was just a lot of turnover. The year I left, I think the whole staff, most of the staff was gone anyways. And then a lot of new players were coming in, and they got a little bit older and more experience, which is why, I mean, they went on to have the year they did. They went to the conference finals. But, for Quinny, I think it's pretty cool for him to be, back in San Jose now. And there's a lot of pressure in New York too. There's a lot. There's pressure on the coaches, players, everybody, management, to perform and do well. So I mean, it's not an easy market to play in. It's a great market to play in, but there's times where it's tough. And I just think for him, he's in a great spot. And obviously, you said like, look what he did with Karlsson, and you said it best. Karlsson obviously has to play. He's the one that plays, but pretty cool for him to coach him. And yeah, I had three great years with Quinny, and it's always fun seeing him when we go play San Jose. I always catch up with him after.
Yeah,
So.
that's awesome. Yeah, so my last ever NHL game was with the Islanders, and I played one game with them, and their alumni program is absolutely awesome. Like they bring everyone in. If you've played this one game or 1,000 games, they'll bring you in for a weekend and they put you up. And anyways, this last year I brought I have 3 boys that play, and every year I'm kind of bringing one of them as we go. So my middle son was able to go this year, and it just worked out that the Rangers were playing kind of the night before everything started. So we got tickets to the Rangers game. And I mean, I played in that building. I played against Gretzky in that building. Like, so I've been in it, but like, it was so crazy hype. Like it was like a Friday night, and I don't know, like the energy in that place, like I was vibing, and I'm not even a Ranger fan, or even a hockey fan anymore. You know what I mean? But it was like surreal kind of being in there. I was like, wow. And I was just thinking while I was in those seats, like going, if I was on the bench right now, like, God, like that's crazy, you know? And so you mentioned that as far as being like your first time through the circuit, you are a Ranger, you're experiencing that 40 times a season, living in the Big Apple, like your eyes must have been like this big, like for the majority of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. Like yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I come from a small town in Winnipeg, just outside of Winnipeg, of like 2,000 people, and then I go play in Moose Jaw, where there's a bit more. I think there's like in all of Moose Jaw, maybe like 40,000, something like that. And then I go from there to New York City, and it was just like, whew, like for the first like couple months or like 2 months for sure, it was just like you were living in a dream. Like it was just like so much going on. It was a big culture shock, just like the lifestyle there, the way New York is just go, 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 go. And it was a lot to take in. Like it was crazy. But as I got to, learn the city a little bit, learn how to use the subways and how to get around and everything, that's when it was like unreal. Like it was amazing. It was such a fun place to play, like such a cool experience getting to live there. And then on top of that, getting to play in the Garden in front of all the fans like that. Like it was amazing. And that was the first place I played, and everybody was telling me when I was there, just like take it all in, because like this is pretty cool, like the whole living experience and all the history with the Rangers and everything like that. So it was an incredible experience, and I really cherish my time there.
So, and it must be kind of, I would assume, not playing there or in a center that big, that like the Rangers are massive, obviously, like they're very well followed, but it's also a big enough city where I'm sure you're just getting around and nobody knows who you are. You don't get recognized that often, yet you are still a Ranger, so you probably get the perks of like whatever it is you kind of want to do when you want to use that. Was it kind of like that way there? Like, how was it being a Ranger?
Yeah, unless you're Henrik Lundqvist,
Right.
you get noticed a lot. But for me, I mean, I don't think I ever got noticed, unless you're right outside the building when you're leaving the game. All the Rangers fans are still there, but other than that, you're just another person in the city. I mean, there's celebrities there. There's everything there, and then on top of that, the city's just massive with a ton of people there. So,
Yeah.
and it's so densely populated. So you kind of get lost in the crowd, which is, I mean, kind of cool. Like you're in the mix, and you're just kind of like part of the New York lifestyle a little bit. But yeah, like the other guys, like the bigger guys like Henrik and whoever else, that they would get noticed, quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this is kind of the cool part about living in New York.
Hey there, just going to take a short break from this excellent conversation with Brett Howden to share a product launch announcement. The Peak Potential Hockey Project, Up My Hockey's signature mindset program, is going to launch another guided mission here on October 2nd. So if you are listening to this podcast in real time, meaning not on replay at a later date, this may be relevant to you. If you have a hockey player anywhere, really anywhere, but let's say in North America, that wants to work on something they've probably never worked on before and wants to find the competitive advantage that potentially they didn't know existed. If you want to see some changes in your player on and off the ice, this could be something that you want to participate in and probably should. It's pretty exciting, what has happened with the program and all the stories that have come from it, and all the people that are willing to share their experience with the program. And there's just been a couple that we've announced here at Up My Hockey, the Facebook group, which is Up My Hockey Parent Group. If you are a hockey parent out there that has not heard yet of the parent group on Facebook, by all means, please join. It's a private group. There's no spam, or there's no chatter. It's all good quality stuff with great people in there. We share a lot of hockey knowledge, a lot of hockey experience. We support each other's journeys. It's also where you're going to get some mindset tips and tricks and things like that. it's something that I'm really proud of that we've grown. But yeah, in the last little while, we've had a couple parents that experienced the program and were willing to share just on their own about what it was. And one was Matthew Kiger. I just want to say, he says it's been 2 years, he says, since his son Raiden went through your course, and he now radiates confidence in all aspects of his life. Raiden was a guy that while he was taking the course, and keep in mind the course is 4 weeks long, at roughly the halfway point, maybe 3/4 of the way through, Matthew, the dad, was having people stop him in the arenas, like parents on his team, saying, "What happened to Raiden? Like, what did you do with Raiden?" Like they were seeing such a difference on the ice that they were actually approaching the dad about what was happening. And obviously it sounds like Raiden is still thriving, and the confidence is as his dad said, is radiating in all aspects of his life. So that's super cool to see. And then we had Heather Roseboom come out and share a story about her athlete, saying that Cole has made the U15A1 team here in Chilliwack as a first year. A huge reason, in our opinion, is because of the peak potential training. So thank you. Well, thank you, Heather, for sharing. Congratulations to Cole. Congratulations to Raiden. They're always a part of my team. Anyone that I've worked with in whatever capacity, it's so fun following their journey and continuing to be a part of it and seeing their growth and development. So there's lots of great stories out there. Of course, if your athlete is somebody that maybe struggles with confidence at times, or has a tendency to get into slumps, or doesn't operate consistently at the level they can, or maybe doesn't quite have the commitment or the practice habits required away from the rink to take advantage of their potential, this could definitely be something that you will see huge uptick in. Obviously, if your player is completely rolling along and everything looks fine, there's less chance for there to be a massive change, noticeable change in a short period of time. But the thing I say all the time is, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% difference. If you can find that makes a huge difference. Those are the parts of the puzzle that are harder to find. And even though things are going well, there is going to be a time where something isn't going to be going well, whether it's a locker room situation or a bad experience with a coach, or whatever the case may be. Something is coming, and it's always ready to be prepared for the storm than trying to prepare for the storm while it's going on. So if you're interested, the Peak Potential Hockey Project is launching again October 2nd. You can get registered for that at upmyhockey.com. Just look under the services section. It's a small group too, by the way, for those of you who are wondering. I always keep it under 10 participants. So I have a chance to work one-on-one with all the players that are involved. So they do fill up. So by all means, get in and take advantage of the October 2nd one. Great time of the year to do it. Everyone's on new teams, wanting to have a successful season, make a good impression, and get their season rolling. So that's where to find it, upmyhockey.com. Now let's get back to the episode with Brett Howden. When it comes to that whole opportunity thing, and I've had other guys in the show before, like Wade Redden comes to mind. Actually, who ended his career at the Rangers, and he got drafted really high and went to Ottawa. And he mentioned like the idea of being young. I mean, he was 18, I think, or 19. He went right after his draft, but he said he made so many mistakes his first year, and like he was not good, but yet he back to our theme of opportunity, right? Like he's like, not everybody had that opportunity, like to keep going back on the ice, like to be allowed to screw up at the NHL level. And he's like, I'm so thankful I had that experience, and I don't know where I would be, again, to kind of your point, coming into a rebuild year, instead of maybe being with the Tampa Bay Lightning on the other side of it and just scratching for every minute of ice, right? Like, I know you haven't really been able to put your feet in those other skates, but could you imagine what life would have been like maybe with Tampa, or like, when these young guys are coming up and you're in this environment where you really, really, really want to, or even have to perform, right? But the mistakes might cost you, can you kind of talk about the two different sides of that coin?
Yeah, like that relates to me so much. Like I go back, or not so much anymore, but I would go back like a couple of years when I was in the league, and I would go back and like look at clips or stuff from my first year, and I was just like, wow, did I make a lot of mistakes? Like I couldn't believe that I was still given all the opportunity that I was given. It was just like throwing on the power play, and then I'll be, making a mistake. I'll be right back out there, like no problem. But obviously there was times where I had to be held accountable, but it was, opportunity is everything, and that's what kind of instills confidence in you. You build your own confidence, but when you're given that opportunity, you kind of feel like the coach trusts you in those positions and things like that. And I was a young guy, and they were trying to, get me to feel confident and things like that. But I just think about all the opportunity I was given throughout that whole first and second year. It was just it was a lot of opportunity for maybe someone who didn't really deserve it. Honestly, just you go back and look at all the clips. So I honestly, I think that's what kind of helps in the end, in the long run, is given all that opportunity, you get to make those mistakes and still feel like you're still able to keep playing and still able to go out there. So you're not really second guessing yourself a ton. And then there comes a time where if it's 2 or 3 years later and you're still making those same mistakes, they're gonna, let you know, and you're not going to be able, play as much. But yeah, I just think if I was back to your question, if I would have been in Tampa, yeah, like it's sometimes I thought about that my first and second year. What would have happened? I most likely would have been in the minors. I wouldn't have been given probably any of the opportunity that I was given in New York my first year. So I was really thankful, super thankful to be in New York and be given all the chances and time on the ice that I was given. And then, yeah, so it is kind of crazy where your path takes you, and mine took me to a place where I was given lots of opportunity. And then when I got traded here, once again, I was given lots of opportunity. So I've been very fortunate and for me, I don't let that go unnoticed. Like, I feel very grateful for all the opportunities that I've been given, and for all the places that I've been able to go.
Yeah, that's a fantastic word, and I hear it in everything that you're saying, like the gratitude, right, and the humbleness that you're also coming at that from, and obviously also the reality of it, right? I mean, it's true, like you need to have opportunity, and there's like the guys that I work with that it's the hardest is when you are in that environment where it's a fourth or third line scenario, or you've just been called up, and your leash is like this long. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you're getting no minutes, right? So you're already kind of squeezing the stick, and if you're screwing up, you're probably not going to get another chance. Yet you see the guys on the second and first line, like they have more rope, right? Because they've earned it, and they're able to make some mistakes, and they're able to be creative. It's like, that's such a tough spot in sports. And specifically in hockey, like where you're in that kind of that ground, right? Where it's like, it all matters, yet you're supposed to be confident. You have to be able to play your game. And my goodness, if I had the secret pill just to be able to hand somebody to go out there and figure it out and play your best, man, like that's the hardest, right? Like I think.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing that it goes back to me, for me, is being consistent. That was my biggest weakness, is I'd have maybe a good game, and then I'd have a few bad games, and then another good game, maybe a couple in a row, then a few bad games. I was never at a consistent level where the coach knew what he was going to get from me night in, night out. And that is the biggest thing for me, which has kind of built confidence for me, is, like knowing what I'm going to bring to the table every night, and at least try to. Some nights it's not going to go your way. It's just the way it is. But 82 games is a long season. Not every night, you're not going to have a great night every night. But at least if you're, putting forth what you can, or what you're trying to do the right things, then, I feel like coaches, that's where they don't have the issues, when you're trying to do the right things. So yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of crazy. Some guys' leashes are short, and at some points mine was short too. And it's like you said, it's hard to play like that, because it's a hard position for the coach, because he wants you to give you that opportunity so you can build confidence. But if you keep making mistakes and doing it over and over again, you got to learn somehow, right? So it's a tough line. It's a tough line to find.
Well, what I thought was like really interesting was when I interviewed Jerome McGinley. So Iggy was on here, and former teammate of mine at World Junior, and he came on, and this was like after his career, and he was saying like when he ended his career in Colorado, he was like, you know, as it happens, you come down the other side of the mountain, and he wasn't playing 30 minutes a night. He was playing like 8, you know, 7.
Mm-hmm.
And he had never really experienced that before. He said he had so much more like respect, like not that he didn't respect those guys because he always did, but just the ability to play right in that environment, to be able to give your best, to be able to provide value when you don't have an opportunity to get in the groove, to get in any type of flow, right? Like, anyway, it was a really interesting conversation to hear from somebody who's won a Maurice Richard trophy, right? Like,
And I think that is so. There's been, you know, I've had quite a few nights where I've played throughout my career where I've played anywhere from 5 to 7, 8 minutes, and it's tough. Like it's hard to get into a groove. It's hard to, you're sitting on the bench and you're just waiting, and then you finally get a shift, and then you're waiting a while again. It's hard to kind of get in a rhythm. But you look, a lot of guys, you know, that do play those minutes are there. It's actually incredible how well they play in those minutes. You know what I mean? Like every shift counts. Those shifts mean so much to them, but also to the team. Those shifts are huge. So I mean, it is, those are tough. Those are tough for sure.
Well, that's the prep too. I mean, I assume, and I mean, even getting back to your talk about like getting the trust from your coach, which is obviously super important. He needs to know when he's putting you out there, what he's going to get, you know, and guys are always wondering, well, I want more minutes. I want this. Well, you have to gain that trust for sure. Right. You have to be dependable on what you're doing. And then there's a whole different mindset around that, because you're sitting on that bench and you have to be ready, right? You have to be focused. You have to know what you're going to provide. I think there's just a whole different level of preparation when it comes to being a player in that situation. And even maybe bringing it back full circle to what you're talking about before with like this kind of this idea of what type of hockey player you are. Because, you know, you, like you said, you were a two-way player in Moose Jaw, but you were the guy. If they needed a goal, you were the guy who was supposed to get it, right? You were the guy in the half wall in the power play. You were the guy who was, when the goalie was pulled, you're out supposed to get one, right? Like, you've always been that guy. And now you have to find different things that you love about the game that maybe you didn't really find that you loved before, you know? And I think that's a big departure when you become a pro, because I mean, now you've got to find value and passion in some things that maybe you never did, right?
Yeah. And I think, you're right. And like, I just think about things now and like I've never really thought of it that way until you just said it. Just like the things that I appreciate in the game now, you know, little things that the team appreciates that you didn't really realize before. And I think those are things that I've kind of found in my game where, and I've kind of always been told, someone always kind of told me what can you do to help a team win? And I think actually one of the guys that would always tell me that is Tim Hunter. He was my coach in junior in Moose Jaw, and me and him had kind of had a conversation after a couple of years that I played in the NHL, and me and him were kind of talking, and he was just telling me like, what can you do to help a team win? And, you know, the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Like, you know, you can see which teams are going to be the guys that are going to be on the ice for the power play, who's going to be out there when we need a goal, when we need that, but who's going to be the guys that when you don't need that, when you want to protect the lead and things like that. So kind of got me thinking quite a bit. And I think that's something that I really appreciate is trying to help the team in any way. And it like we've said, it's like we're reiterating it a lot. It's kind of changed over my career, but it's kind of cool how you kind of, I don't know how I've kind of figured that. I'm not saying I've figured everything out. I'm still learning a lot as I go here, but just from my first year to now, this will be my 6th year, all the experience and everything in between. It's kind of crazy how it's kind of led me to where I'm at now. And I'm still learning a lot. Like from the team that I'm on, I'm still one of the youngest guys on the team. And it's my 6th year, where when I was in New York, when I played my 2nd or 3rd year, I was like considered like, I don't know, closer to one of the guys that has been there the longest, which is wild to think about. So, So for me now, I'm still learning every day from all these guys in the locker room, which it's incredible. We have such a great group here. It's like, you know, a bunch of veterans that have been through so much. And then we obviously all won together last year. So it's just fun going to the rink every day and still feeling like a kid again. Like I'm still learning every day. So
yeah. That's kind of a mindset, though, I think, right? I mean, at least I call it that, meaning like that willingness to learn and the ability to kind of take every day with the newness to it, and almost like a beginner's mind, to use like a yogi term, right? Like if you walk into every situation with like, hey, what can I learn today, or what's new for me to pick up on, you're going to find some answers to that, right? But we can also get really comfortable in where we're at, and we kind of close the door to that, and then we don't grow, and our game kind of stalls, and life happens like that. So it's really cool that you're mentioning that, because of course, environment matters, right? Like having older guys around you that have been through more, like it's kind of easier to look to them for growth and to ask questions. But I think it is just a mindset in general. And you see guys in the league, I'm sure around you right now, some of these older guys that probably still do approach every day like that. I know like some of the guys that I've talked to that played with Chara there, like 40 years old, and he was still inventing new ways to get better every day, or to try and keep his edge, right? Like that's an approach to life, really,
Yeah. And I think that's probably, well, that's why he played for so long, right? Like he was always wanting to try to get better and learn. And I just even look at the guys on our team, the resumes of the guys on our team is unbelievable. But you just look at the guys who's first on the ice. It's all, like guys are always wanting to do things to get better, even though even like right now for us, we're skating right now, and we're just coming off of winning, and it's just like seeing like the drive and the determination and the commitment out of all these, like out of everyone right now, is just unbelievable. Like a lot of people think, oh, they're just relaxed and they don't really, it's like it's a whole new mindset again. It's like we want to win again. We want to do it again. And it's like that competitive nature and that willingness to want to, like you said, wanting to learn every day. And I think what you said it best is the environment you're in. Like when you're in a good environment, surrounded by good people who all have that same mentality, it makes it way easier for you to buy into that and be a part of it.
With you talking about that, my head's bouncing all over the place, but like the word that comes to mind for me is standards, because I talk a lot about standards with the players and the teams that I work with, and the idea that like there's always another level, like it's this idea of learning. Like you're learning about yourself, and you're learning about how to win, and now you're seeing what it takes to win a championship, and I assume the standards, like from Moose Jaw for you and as a group to what you just saw last year, is way different, wildly different, right? The preparation it takes, the commitment to work, the ability to lift your teammates up, like all this stuff is like at a different standard. Is that accurate? Like just thinking of you, like from your day one in New York, and like first in the league, and a rebuilding team, and now you've just won a championship. Like how much of your standards changed and your approach to the game?
Yeah. Like it is crazy to think about. Like I even think about me, in junior and then coming out of junior, and you just think like if I would have known all this now, it would have been. But that's the whole thing about experience, is like you learn along the way. And I think coming out of junior, even my first and second year in New York, like you're a young guy. I hate to say it, but like I was stubborn. Like that's just how like young guys are. I was stubborn. I thought I kind of knew what I was doing, things like that. Not that I didn't want to listen or learn, but you kind of you kind of get stubborn a little bit with things. And now I look at just some more experience that I've had, been able to learn throughout the years. And I just think back to myself back then. It's like I knew nothing. Like I didn't know, I didn't know what I was thinking. And and like I said, that all comes with experience and maturity and over the years. And I think that's something that I've obviously in the last 6 years I've matured a lot. And I just think coming to the rink every day, it's you're committed to what you're doing. Like in junior, I think we didn't even work, like we worked out, but not very much. Like you weren't as committed to that. You were just going out and having fun and playing games, and you weren't really thinking about it too much. Whereas now it's kind of, like you said, the standard. Like you look around the room and you see guys doing certain things, and you're like, hey, I gotta start, like doing things like that. It's just like the people around you are so huge, and I think Kelly and George have done such a good job of creating such a good culture here. We have such a good culture, and Just a lot of guys like everybody, we can, rely on each other and lean on each other. And it's always so fun going to the rink because there's all that work and all that, every day doing everything, but yet we make it a ton of fun. I think there's a really good balance of both there, of being able to have a lot of fun and a lot of joking around and stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's, like who's going to be there. And, it just shows the kind of guys that we have in the room.
Yeah, you can still be an ass kicker and have a good time doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be super serious, and that's kind of the thing that I like talking about. And like in those good environments, like you guys are working your ass off, but you're having fun doing it, right?
Exactly.
Like, the grind is actually a good time. And just while you were thinking there, I just interviewed Luke Toporowski a little while ago. I mean, he's trying to work his way into the NHL. He played with Providence last year, and he's a ex-Spokane Chief. And we were talking about standards a little bit in that conversation, and he was just saying like he thought he was a hard worker. You know what I mean? Kind of to your point, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like thought he was a hard worker and thought he put in his time on the ice. But then like the more you sometimes you have to get called out on it, but then you also get to experience what hard work really can look like, right? You talk about that environment. It's like, holy shit, I'm not even close, right? Like there's other things that I can do here. And I think the world starts to open. And that's one of the things that I love challenging. That's why I think this conversation is so awesome for us to have right now, because there's young guys listening. Like they're not even close. You know what I mean? They think they have these big dreams and these big goals and they want to get these places, but they're not even really close to like putting in the time required or the effort to make these things happen. Right. And, to yourself, I mean, obviously you were a great junior player and some things probably came pretty easy for you. And like you said, you were pretty stubborn, right? Things were rolling pretty good, and then now you're amongst the best of the best. And that's a whole different ballgame, right? Because it's the best of the best in the world. And there is a way to go about your business that you hadn't quite seen yet. And I love that you're adopting it. Is there like, just so some of these younger guys can hear, like, what does it look like in a Las Vegas locker room? Because you talked about the weights in junior, right? I remember there too. You kind of go in there and dust them off, and I mean, nobody's really doing too much, right? You're almost like trying to hide from the trainer so you can get out of the weight room and go do your thing. And but like that's not the way it is at the NHL level.
No, and I think I even think back to years ago. I just hear stories about in the summer it was just you'd drink and hang out, and then you'd go get in shape in training camp, and it's like. You just can't do that. You would be so far behind. Everybody is so on top of their stuff now. Like you come into the rink, like, so for example, for our team, like you come in and guys are always working on something, whether it's up in the gym before the skate, they're working on stuff like, and a lot of guys like have certain people to help them out with certain things. There's like, I just even think of there, like, for example, Eichel, he is so in tune with his body. Like he is so prepared with his body. Like he's up in the gym, he's doing these certain movements and stuff like this that'll help him for something or get him loose. And then guys are always like playing with their equipment, and it's just like they're always like thinking about stuff and trying to be better. Like there's just, and then guys are going on the ice early and working on certain things. Like there's never a guy needs to be told to go and do something. And then like we talked about, you see a guy doing that and you're like, hey, I should probably start, trying to go do that or whatever like that. So yeah, exactly. It really is like, and it starts a conversation too. Like Ike's will be, or anybody, not just him, but anybody will be doing something and you're just kind of like wondering, I wonder why he's doing that. So then you kind of talk about it and then you kind of learn something. You're like, oh, that actually makes sense. And then I start trying that. Like, it keeps going. So yeah, I just think it's obviously things have changed a lot from back in the day. I think it's pretty funny. Like I couldn't imagine going a whole summer without working out or doing anything and trying to get in shape in training camp. Like,
right.
It's just, but yeah, I just like we talked about, like, even in the summer, you work out, guys work out, but then a lot of guys are, even after they work out, they're thinking about the food they're eating, the nutrition. There's just like so many things that go into it.
Yeah. What would a day look like for you, Brett? Like with your, I don't know, let's say, or even say now. So like, how much time are you dedicating outside of your family? I mean, obviously you get home and you're being a dad and you're being a husband and all this stuff. Like when you're at the rink, like what goes into a day for you right now?
Well, before the season, it's like, I mean, it's a little different than in season. Depends on the schedule in season. But right now, I get to the rink, I don't know, 7:38, and then get upstairs. That's usually when everybody starts kind of coming in, and we kind of do like a warm up and then a workout together. Some guys might work out after the skate, and then once you finish that up, you do your skate, um, and then you kind of do whatever. Like I said, some guys come in earlier and then skate, but we all skate together, and then some guys will stay after and do some stuff. Um, and then that's pretty much the whole morning until about noon-ish, I'd say, 12:30, and then come home, and then like you said, then it's dad mode, and then it's kind of fun for me coming home to my son and being able to hang out with him, and then yeah, right now we're getting close to camp, so obviously you're kind of thinking about stuff, fitness testing and stuff like that, so you're
Right.
trying to stay dialed with everything like that. But yeah, it's the days are really fun, and then we're all excited, like we're all back here and getting ready to go, so we're really antsy to kind of get things going again. We're all excited, but yeah, that's kind of a typical day of right now.
The one thing, I mean, I'm born in 76, so I don't know. When are you? You're 98, so 22 years.
98.
Oh my gosh, 22 years younger. But even like, so when I was playing though, and your age then, like we were definitely working out. Like, so it was probably 20 years before me that guys weren't working out at all. But the one thing I think is different, or at least I feel is different, is I was super dialed into like my fitness, right? My strength and like that stuff. But I was not in the summer, like I wasn't shooting pucks, I wasn't working on stick handling, I wasn't working on like any type of growth factor for the skill level of my game. And now, like when I'm dealing with guys at the younger levels and like getting them to do that, it's amazing how much better you actually can get. Like I don't know, like it was a mindset thing. I think. Like, you mean you figured you're a pro hockey player? I'm an NHLer. I'm good, right? Like I didn't think that you could keep getting better, and I actually found that I flatlined and maybe even got worse because you stop kind of being so playful with it. You become being a pro in the 70-game season or the 80-game season, like you're kind of finding ways to get out of the rink sometimes, not really stay in it. And it sounds like to me like guys are like out on the ice and they are trying to work on things. Like, is that something where you're trying to improve your skills even now?
Yeah, for sure. I think, don't get me wrong, the season's a long season, and like when you get to, close to the end of where it's around 50 games, it wears on you for sure. But I think when you're surrounded by a good group and good culture, that helps a lot. But and there's days where our coaches, they can read the room so well. Like they'll know whether we need to practice or we don't. When you're that far in the season, sometimes it's good to just take a couple days and just be away from the rink and just kind of reset mentally. But like right now, leading up to the season, there's a lot of that where you're on the ice working on things. Even as the season gets going here in the start, guys are always going out with our skills coach and working on things before practice, working on things after practice, which is good because I feel like, especially here, I mean, I'm sure it's the same everywhere, but here, our coach is so good for, getting our work that we need to do in practice, whether it's system stuff or things he wants to work on or get conditioning done. But then he always knows that guys like to work on stuff after. So there's always time. It's never like the practice is so long where you just want to get out of there after. There's always time to be working on things after. And actually, I was looking at a video. Me and Ollie were doing some stuff actually in a video together. I remember New York was doing a video of us. They were taking a video of him doing some work after practice. But me and him would do a lot of work together. Like he was always helping me with my skating, my first 3 strides, working on quicker shots. And back then, when I wasn't, I was still a little immature, like not physically mature. He was trying to help me like use my body properly, how to protect pucks. So I feel like there's always something, especially for everybody's got their own game. So there's always something for your game that you can keep, be working on.
I use the term when I'm working with guys, like the deliberate practice term. I mean, like it's good to just go out there and have fun. Like that's kind of part of the passion and it keeps it light. But there should be a time dedicated before or after practice that is deliberate practice for something specific to you that you're trying to get better at. like that you're actually focusing on. And it sounds like that's what you're speaking to. As you told that story, Brett, I to tell you kind of how full circle we go. So you had Lindy Ruff in New York as well. And I had him in Florida. So he was the assistant coach in Florida when I was there. And he was my guy working with me after practice on the stuff. And I remember you saying like that Ollie was good. Like Lindy was a hell of a player himself too. I'm sure he's probably got on a little bit since then, but he would do all the stuff we were doing. He'd skate with us. He'd bag the crap out of us, but he'd have a ton of fun doing it with us too.
Yeah. He was the same with us too. Like he was working a lot with the D when we were in New York, but he was always helping me too. He was great. He was a ton of fun, and he, like there and times when you go through rough patches, you just kind of need to hear a new voice too. And he'd always be right there helping too, helping me get out of some slumps that I was in or anything. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, that's a full circle.
That's awesome. Take one more short break here from the conversation with Brett Howden to remind you that Up My Hockey works with teams, and specifically I from Up My Hockey will work with your team. I know teams have just been getting set here, and the season is up and running, and there is a few spots on my calendar here in the first half to work with your team. Up My Hockey and the Peak Potential Hockey Project is something that is an amazing team builder, like Team Builder 2.0. It also is an individual development tool, and it takes the onus off of the head coach for trying to organize these culture, peak performance, mindset type activities. It's hard enough to do the things on the ice well, and the organized practices and the tournaments and all the rest that comes with being a head coach. I know firsthand. So to be able to have somebody come in who specializes in that to help your team, not only on the ice with more wins and less losses, but also in the dressing room to make the environment as positive and as supportive as you can. When all of your players are seeing potential adversity as an opportunity to improve and an opportunity to learn, and the parents are also categorizing these things as such, like it makes the whole thing go a lot smoother when players are equipped with the tools, when they view it as such, and when their mindset isn't about avoiding, but it's about conquering. It can be a pretty special season. So if you are interested in taking the Up My Hockey Peak Potential Hockey Project as a team builder, by all means, reach out in the contact form on the website, upmyhockey.com. You can also send an email to admin@upmyhockey.com and let us know that you're interested, and we can get back to you and see if there's a good fit and see if there's a spot on the calendar to do so. It usually takes 8 weeks, even though the program's 4 weeks long as far as curriculum is concerned. Just so you know, every second week there would be a coaching call with me that we organize around your practice schedule. And yeah, it's a great way to fill the first half of the season. Each week builds on the next, and there's a lot of great stuff that you can have as far as locker room discussions are concerned with the program. So yes, Peak Potential Hockey Project is for teams. It is for associations. It is for academies. If you are in either one of those positions, team manager, decision maker, reach out and find out more and see how Up My Hockey can help you and your hockey players not only be better hockey players, but also be better people. Now back to the episode with Brett Howden. I can't not ask you about winning a Stanley Cup. I don't know what I can even ask about that. This was your fifth, looks like, season in the league. Obviously, some guys can play 20 years and never be able to raise that thing. How special was that last year, that run? And maybe since we've been talking about lessons so much, maybe what was the biggest lesson you took from that experience?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It was, it almost seems like a blur just because it was, there was so much going on. But man, like what an incredible experience it was. So it was my first time in playoffs really, but I went to the bubble with New York, but we played in the play-in and we got out quickly. I think we lost three games to Carolina in the play-in round or whatever. So this was like my real first experience in the playoffs, and it was unbelievable for us for my first time to be in the playoffs and to go all the way and win it. I mean, very, very fortunate. But like you said, guys play their whole careers and they don't get that chance to win. And that's kind of all I thought about this summer is just how lucky how lucky I am to be in that position that I was in, to be, traded to Vegas and to be, put into such a good situation, be put on a good team, like everything's got to kind of line up, and just, so fortunate to be here and to be able to be a part of this team and to be able to win with them. And yeah, and to go back to your question where you said, is there one lesson? I don't know. I mean, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to, think about everything. I mean, the playoffs are a long time. There's, a couple months worth, but I think about just the team we had. There was never any doubt. I mean, there'd be games where, we'd be down or anything, and you could start to get, even in my mind, there'd be times where I'd be getting a little nervous, but then just seeing the room around me so calm and just like in a confident way, not cocky, but in a confident way, just you kind of brought me back down. And it's like, okay, we're good. And all the experience in a room, like Martinez, Petrangelo, Stevenson's won a cup before, and then Stone's played how long? Eichel's played. You just go around the room and how much experience the whole room has. It goes a long way. And I know everybody talks about it, having experience is huge. Well, it was huge. It was huge for us. That's what I found. I found for us to have all that experience in the room is what, really made us a good team.
And then, like, on a personal level, I didn't watch every game Vegas played, but I did watch a few, obviously, in the finals there too. And just your own personal stat line. And I know when you hoist the cup, it's definitely like 21 through 20, sometimes 1 through 25, right? Like the guys being involved and what it takes to win. But it seems like your game from an offensive side, like, elevated. You almost had as many goals in the playoffs as you did all season, and kind of brought that tone up. Was that exciting to be able to contribute in that way, maybe in a little bit of a new way, and to be that player and have your line do so well in that environment?
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And I think the thing is like, you look at the players I was playing with Stevenson and Stone, and I mean, they're two really easy guys to play with. I mean, they make a lot of plays. Like I just even think about, there's certain plays. I remember saying stuff to my dad, like I'd make a play to them and it wouldn't be, a great pass, or it'd be behind them or bouncing or something like that, and they would pick it up, no problem. Like it's just things like that where the elite players, you can see why they're elite. So I mean, it was a ton of fun. It was an unbelievable experience for myself. The cool thing about our team is, like, didn't matter where you were slotted in. We had 4 like really deep lines, so each line was scoring every night, which was it just goes to show how deep our team was. Even go back to the D-man too, like they're scoring every night too for us. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, being able to kind of contribute like that. But I mean, when you're surrounded by players like the caliber of our team that we had, it definitely makes things a bit easier for yourself.
Yeah, there's good players and then there's great players. I think the good players, I've kind of said this before, like, they're good, but the great players make everyone around them better too, and can kind of play with anyone. And I think, Crosby is obviously the most obvious, I think, sign of that. Whoever plays with him it turns into an unbelievable all-star type player, that's a special thing to be able to do. And you guys had quite a few of those players on that team, and obviously everyone making everyone else better. It means something special is happening there. Usually in a championship type scenario, someone tells a story of adversity that a team needs to go through something, right? To learn from each other, or to do something to kind of come out that other side and be able to raise that cup. Was there something last year for you guys, or was it maybe the season before, like the experience in the playoffs, or maybe, I guess it would have been a year previous when they had that rough road against Colorado? Like, was there something there that kind of galvanized the team that pushed you guys forward?
So yeah, I mean, I wasn't here, but I heard that those years that they were playing against Colorado in the playoffs, those were tough years, and even for Colorado too. It was kind of back and forth a lot. And I think Vegas was, they were right there for a lot of years, going to the finals, and then it was conference finals. They were just always kind of there, but just couldn't really push past. And then my first year here was one of the craziest years I've ever been a part of with injuries. We had so many injuries night in, night out. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. So that year was all off. We didn't make playoffs that year. And coming back, it was almost like, everybody was kind of finally got themselves healthy. Everybody was kind of ready to go. And it was almost like the team had something to prove. And because the whole talk was, Vegas not making playoffs and this and that. And even when we got to playoffs, when we made playoffs, we finished first in our division. And there was so many people doubting us, like saying that, Winnipeg was going to take the series. And then it was Edmonton was going to take the series. And it just kind of kept, and it just kind of, not that it fueled us, but it just was kind of like, like the team still had something to prove sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest thing, the turning point for like how I felt was in the Dallas series, we were up 3-0 and in the series, and they came back and won 2 games. And, game 6 back in Dallas, and there's all this talk, if Dallas wins, they could really, they could take game 7, things like that. And we had a conversation with our team, and it was a really good conversation. And it was almost, kind of like we need to get down to business here and can't, not let this slip away. And there was obviously more to it, but that game 6 was the best game I think I've ever seen our team play or ever been a part of a game where we've dominated so much. We won, I think it was 6-0 or something like that. And it just felt like we just came together, and it was just like, we're taking this. And when we won that, obviously we knew we had a whole other series to go, but it was just like that confidence of seeing how we played. It was unbelievable. And you could just feel it. You could feel it in a room. Nobody really had to say anything. You could just feel it. But that for me was probably one of the coolest experiences, was that game.
Yeah, that would be like, we got this.
Yeah.
You drew the line in the sand collectively, and then you showed that you could do it on the ice against a great team, and nothing's going to stop you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a really cool story. I thought that Edmonton series was going to be tighter than it was. Like, I picked Edmonton. I don't know why. I mean, now looking back, but like, boy, they were rolling too. And
yeah, and it honestly, from an outsider, you might think that, but it was a tight series. It was hard. That was a tough series. I mean, especially with those 2 guys, McDavid and Draisaitl, it's like anytime they get on the ice, they're making something happen. So it was a tough series, but I just think that our depth, was huge. Was a huge thing for our team. But yeah, that was even though it was 4-2, it didn't feel like that. The series, it felt like it was really tight back and forth. Yeah,
I was super surprised they never went to Soupy. Just personally, like he had such a huge night there, like in that Kings series, to bring him out of that. And then Skinner was, he wasn't at his best, I didn't think. And, rookie in a big scenario. I was really surprised they never gave him a chance there. And that might've been who knows? I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? But I thought you guys got a couple goals maybe that made it a little easier, but it was definitely a hard fought series. That's for sure.
Yeah. It was a tough series.
Well, it's 5:30, man. I really enjoyed the chat. I hope you did too. I know my audience will really appreciate it. So fantastic stuff. I mean, the one thing that I hear to you constantly is just like how grounded and how grateful you are, and that is a word that I talk about a lot. And like, if we can use that and actually manifest it, it makes everything easier. It makes us better to be around, and it makes us more appreciative of what we got, which is usually a recipe for greatness. So I love you being able to preach that. It's great for my audience. So thanks so much, man, for being around.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. This was awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being here for this episode with Stanley Cup champion Brett Howden. Again, I just want to emphasize, the professionalism and the humanism of Brett, to spend over an hour with us before training camp is about to start. Very busy time of the year. He just moved back into Las Vegas, and was getting his house set up, and he has starting a young family there, and the demands of that, to get on a podcast with somebody that he's never met, to be as gracious and as forthcoming and as insightful as he was, is really exactly how I'm trying to mentor our young athletes today, those that I work with, about developing the skills to be authentically that. I've always said that I really strive for hockey players to be examples in our community, to be people that are in hockey and around hockey, are just recognized as being amazing people that you feel good to be around, people that, bring others up, people that are good leaders and communicators. And I think Brett is just such an awesome example of how I feel hockey players should be. He is totally doing our sport justice and proud. And I couldn't be happier for him with the success that he's having. And yeah, just let that be the lesson really here, is that it's we get so wrapped up in the hockey, like the hockey aspect of being a hockey player, that there is way more involved in being a hockey player, that you're actually going to get paid money to do it. And there's way more that's going to be a part of your legacy than the hockey that you've played. So I know Brett is working on both aspects of that. And for all you younger players out there, remember, he essentially got his chance. Yes, he was good enough to be invited to the party, but he had to be a good enough human to get accepted into the club. And that was the difference maker for him. And that difference maker for him as a human and as a teammate was the one that kept him there. It wasn't because he had scored 30 goals in his first 80 games as a pro. It wasn't because he was prolific in his offensive production. He was making mistakes. He was screwing up. He wasn't maybe ready. There might have been other people that were maybe better players than him even. But he had a fan club. He had built people around him that wanted him to succeed. They wanted to be a part of his journey. He was willing to keep showing up. He was willing to keep asking questions. He was willing to put in the work, and people saw that he was getting better, which allowed him to stay there. And now he's earned his spot, and he has solidified his spot as a Stanley Cup champion. And there is something to be remembered by that statement. So no matter where you are, whatever level of the journey you are on, be a good human. Be grateful for the opportunities that you have. Ask questions. Work your tail off. Try and get better every day. And let people know where you want to go to, what you're trying to do. And when you let people know where you want to go and what you're trying to do, and they also see that your words and your actions are aligning with that goal, you build a fan club. People want to be a part of that. People want to help you succeed. I know I do. I know Dave Oliver wants to get behind that. And we're not alone. There's people everywhere that are in the coaching position that want to get behind people that are willing to go to bat for themselves, that are willing to play hard and fight hard for what they want, and are also good, approachable people when you're working with them. So it's a huge part of the game. It's a huge part of what it takes to make things work. And Brett, thank you so much for staying here today. Mr. and Mrs. Howden, if you're out there ever listening to this, thank you for the amazing job that you obviously did raising your son there. And thanks again for spending the time with us here. And until next time, play hard. Keep your head up.